It's time to talk about Derrick Henry and his recent interview with Dan Patrick. Of course, the King gearing up for yet another season in the NFL, his second in Baltimore, coming off a tremendous campaign, 1,921 rushing yards. Of course, if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley going crazy, who of course now graces the Madden 2026 cover, he probably would have had himself another opportunity, another chance to call himself the king when it comes to rushing titles. Who's to say that he can't go after that exact label and title for 2025? I'm not sure I'd bet against it. But speaking of bets, that's exactly what he's done. He's made a deal. He's made a bet with Dan Patrick. It came towards the end of his brief interview earlier this week with Dan, and it has everything to do with a big milestone, a milestone that he's hit once throughout his future Hall of Fame career, statistically speaking. I'll let him tell you about it and listen to his conversation with Dan Patrick.
Hey, Dan, thank you for wearing that hoodie, man. Lime green brighten up my day. Appreciate it.
Well, this is Happy Gilmore 2. This is what Adam Sandler gave me.
Okay. That's one of my, Adam Sandler, my favorite actor, so that's what's up.
So that's the Happy Gilmore golf swing right there, that patch right there.
Hey, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
If you ever see him again, tell him I'm a really big fan. I would really love to meet him one day.
Okay. You know what I'm going to do?
Man.
I'm going to text him today and ask if he'll send a video.
Please.
And then I'm going to send it to the Ravens.
Okay, cool. I'm a huge fan.
Okay. And if you get to 2,000 yards, I'll get you in a Sandler movie.
All right, cool. Say no more.
Is that all right?
Remember that now. You remember this? Remember that?
No. I'll take care of my end of it.
Okay.
I mean, mine's easy.
Yeah.
Yours is hard. You got to get 2,000 yards.
Say no more.
No pressure.
Bet is on. No pressure at all.
All right. Thank you, buddy.
All right. See y'all.
The bet is on. And as you heard there, clearly for starters, Dan Patrick has a texting relationship. That's how close he is with actor Adam Sandler, who, by the way, is responsible and at the forefront of some of the all-time movies. Okay. Click comes to mind. Billy Madison comes to mind. The Water Boy is just straight up legendary. Okay. Take your pick. Punch Drunk Love, you name it. All right. Adam Sandler is one of the GOATs, and the King clearly not hiding his affinity for Adam whatsoever. So here it is. Something for us all to follow. Something that he fell short of by just 79 yards a year ago. The 2,000 rushing yards bet is on, okay? You just heard Dan Patrick, who has a relationship with Adam Sandler, tell the King that he will get him in a Adam Sandler movie if he hits the 2,000 yard mark again in a season. And yes, he's already done it. You got to go back to 2020. He was a member of the Tennessee Titans there, of course, where he spent really his entire career leading up to last season in Baltimore. 2027. Okay? He's hit the 1,500 mark a couple times. And then, of course, he's skyrocketed to over 1,900 last season, as I've mentioned a couple times, which was historic. Okay? And the yards per attempt mark, the highest of his career at 5.9 by a significant margin. You got to go back to 5.4 in 2020, which again was his 2,000 yard rushing season. So, can he do it? Do the Ravens have plans to give him a chance to do it? Because I think we can probably all agree and remember that really the first quarter of last year, we were all sort of left wanting more from a usage perspective, more from a carries and workload perspective. But they were careful with him. They eased him into his time in Baltimore. And ultimately, he got to the point where he was rolling for 20 plus carries down the latter half of the season. And you can think about specific games too, where he was just incredibly impactful. Defenses had absolutely no answers for him. The forced tackles, the yards after contact, just his sheer presence alone and what that did for a Ravens offense that was already extremely explosive was fun to watch. Palpable stuff, right? But will he have a legit chance in year 2 with the Ravens, having just signed a contract extension that keeps him in Baltimore for the foreseeable future? I think it's a fair question to ask. Derrick will turn 32 in January of 2026. So this will be his 31st aged season. And being that he is in Baltimore and they have paid him to the tune of $15 million on an average annual value basis, which is the third highest among running backs league wide, trailing just Saquon and C-Mac. To me, it begs the question, will he have a legit chance? I'm not going to sit here and argue, can he? Yes, he clearly can. And he could have easily done so last year with more added to his plate, less of a leash earlier on in the season. But will he have a chance is different than can he? And so I think that remains to be seen. If I'm a betting man, I think he falls short of that 2,000-yard mark. And I think that's just fine. I don't think that'll be due to unavailability. I don't think that'll be due to circumstance. I think it'll simply be due to usage. They want to ensure that while absolutely when milestones are in reach, now Nick Sirianni and the Eagles obviously had to make a difficult decision down the stretch last year and decided to sit Saquon when he was going for the all-time record. And so while you always want to be mindful and acknowledge when players have, historic achievements within striking distance of them, you also know that King came to Baltimore for a reason, right? 1, to play with Lamar. 2, to go chase that Lombardi trophy. I think he's going to go just short of that 2,000 number. But it would not surprise me if he's up in that 17, 18, 1,900 area yet again. They've obviously got a jam-packed backfield. Keaton Mitchell is roaring to get himself back to his previous form. Justice Hill continues to be a viable option, a blitz pick-upper, a pass catcher. And I love when Justice gets involved in some of the screen game, and obviously a reliable runner, right? You guys are hysterical too. You're so quick to call me a pessimist. Again, I hope you listen to the analysis that comes along with it. It's not me getting up here and saying that he isn't capable. It's will he have a chance to show his capability? It's the latter that I have my doubts on. I don't think the Ravens will give him a chance when it comes to the usage that is required to hit the 2,000-yard mark. That's all it is. Because they have bigger fish to fry. That's what it comes down to for me. More from Derrick's interview with Dan Patrick, which really was quite an enjoyable one. And this is the best part about the King. Once he starts to get honest and show you that ferocious competitive spirit, it's hard not to absolutely love this guy. Here's an exchange between he and Dan when it comes to what he has left in the tank at 31 and how he compares himself to the early 20s coming out of Alabama. Watch this.
40-yard dash. What would you run it now?
Probably the same when I ran it during the combine.
What was that?
It was like 4.54, 4.52.
Okay. But you seem to be faster when you're carrying the football. There's certain guys who run faster when people are chasing them.
I feel that way too. I don't know. Some people would say you have like testing speed, and then some people have football speed, and I definitely feel like that's the case for me. I feel like I'm more faster on the field.
If I had you and Lamar race?
Oh, I like me.
I'm going to guess he likes him.
Yeah, for sure. He gonna tell you like.
Oh, I'm sure he does like him, being Lamar. But Derrick takes him in a 40-yard dash race against Lamar Jackson and thinks that at this point, at 31, that he's running the same speed that he tested at the combine over a decade ago, or around a decade. That is hysterical. And by the way, football speed, right, versus regular speed, away from the arena, away from the spirit of competition, perhaps away from just channeled adrenaline from within, that is a real thing. And I love that answer from the King. His competitive spirit oozing from him. He's not backing down. Okay, Lamar's going to get him every day of the week and twice on Sunday. But the fact that he ain't backing down, you just respect it. What did he say? A 4.52? Is that what he said he ran? Let me rewind this just to ensure that we heard that correctly.
When I ran it during the combine.
What was that?
It was like 4.54, 4.52.
Okay.
4.54, 4.52 at the combine. And all these years later, he's sitting up there with a straight face saying, I'm going to run that again. I would run that again in the 40. How can you not love this guy? It's just exceptional. It's excellence. That's what it is. It's excellence. It's expectation. And man, when you look at what the King does and did in this case last year, reaching a top speed of 21.7 miles an hour, okay? Can you blame him for showcasing that kind of confidence? That surefire confidence? 21.7 miles an hour this season. If I had to guess, I would think that was the 80-plus yard touchdown, the first play from scrimmage on that Sunday night football game in Baltimore against the Bills. They went on to smack them, right? I would think that's what he was clocked at, right around there. There were a few other runs that come to mind as well, but he hit that turbo drive. One of the more iconic plays that you can think of in Ravens regular season history, being that it was one of his first games. I think it was like week 4, wasn't it, last year? Like 22 coming at you in bulldozer mode. Get out the way. What a player. What an interview. Good stuff from Dan Patrick. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And by the way, this duo, since we're talking about them and going up against one another when it comes to the 40, just a reminder what they did last year. They combined for over 3,100 rushing yards, which included the postseason. They're the first two teammate duo in NFL history to have 3,000 plus combined rushing yards in a season. Exceptional talents, an exceptional duo. And you get the sense that these two are just getting started. And there is a surgical level of narrowed focus and concentration. And that is a trickle-down effect. It is contagious within the confines of that locker room. You've already heard that be a trend so far this season. That's what I continue to think. A part of that is the focus and precision and bounce back concentration, right, that Mark Andrews is attempting to pull off, given the sour taste that I'm sure he still has in his mouth coming off of last year's shortcoming in that Bills divisional round. His running mate and friend and fellow tight end, Isaiah Likely, is gearing up for a contract year. Every single tight end in the room, matter of fact, is doing exactly that, including the fullback and Patrick Ricard. They're gearing up for contract seasons. Important, life-changing stuff awaits these guys, and obviously performance and overall evaluation will be at the top of mind. Todd Monken, Ravens offensive coordinator, shared some of his 2 cents on the Isaiah and Mark partnership, the duo that they are, and just how honestly impressed he is with how close they've become, given the nature of the competition in a sense. Obviously, these guys are scratching and fighting and clawing for targets. I enjoyed this from Monken.
Good friends, and they're selfless. Like, that's not easy. I mean, I know we played a lot of 12 personnel, but there's also, when we go 11 personnel, one of them's in the game, and they're both very capable guys. So Coach Godsey does a great job every week of how do we rotate those guys? Where do we have the targets aligned so those guys feel like they're getting their opportunities? So it starts with them. I mean, they're the ones that make that decision that, they're selfless. And I think it gives us, first of all, I'm fired up. They're all here, okay, to run it back with those guys. And, I see us being very similar to last year in a lot of ways because I think that's our best grouping.
It is. How can you not say that? It is, of course, their best grouping. Any other team, Charlie Kolar is a second-string tight end. At times, you're just trying to find ways to get Charlie involved other than tush-push opportunities here and there, special teams, right? Blocking tight end abilities and duties. So, yeah, when you're looking at Mark, Isaiah, and, in Mark's case, a future Ring of Honor member. In Isaiah's case, somebody that in a lot of ways has been held back due to being drafted by such a strong tight end heavy team. And then you go ahead and throw in the Charlie Kolars of the world. I mean, look, Kadir Ismail, unfortunately for him, didn't stand a chance because of just how deep and talented the tight end room is. On top of that, he was transitioning from wide receiver to tight end. Wish that dude the best, man. Can't wait to catch up with Kadri at some point here soon. He's been with the Vegas Raiders this offseason, working in their offseason program. So I can't wait to see how he winds up and how his career and ultimate transition to tight end treats him. But it's a group that is without question, offensively speaking, and probably team-wide, is the most dynamic and dynamite personnel grouping that Todd Monken has at his disposal.